Mark Rogers TV back with you and back at our top 10 positional rankings. We've knocked out the quarterbacks. Now we go to those exciting players in the backfield at running back. The Big Ten reigned supreme in 2014, most talent and most depth, but most of those guys have moved on to the NFL except for one or two. This season, it's going to be the SEC providing the best backs in college football, followed closely by the Pac-12. Let's run them down or run them up 10 through 1. You can see that we did, past tense, have a tie at number 10 between Dalvin Cook at Florida State and Alex Collins at Arkansas. Cook's recent situation, battery charge, and suspension at Florida State knocks him out. We knocked out a video on that. Please check it out concerning Florida State's running back situation. Okay, no more Dalvin Cook. Let's talk some Alex Collins. He's coming into his junior season. His stats, his first 2 years at Arkansas, almost identical. And what's really strange is that not just were those 2 seasons almost identical, but they were almost identical to his running mate in the backfield, number 9 guy, Jonathan Williams. We'll talk about the difference, the slight difference between Williams and Collins right now. Collins burst onto the scene as a freshman, was the first freshman in the SEC ever to gain 300 yards his first 3 games in his career. And he towed to the rock for 1,000 yards. This past season, 1,100 yards, 5.4 per carry, and 12 touchdowns. Alex Collins gets to the second level. He's got decent speed, really good speed for a big guy. He is a prototypical pounder between the tackles that doesn't have a whole lot of moves, but he's got one cut and go type ability, and Brett Bielema likes that. Not a whole lot of shake and bake. He gets that from other players in Arkansas. All right. The difference between Williams and Collins. Jonathan Williams, 1190 last season, just 90 yards more, 5.6 per carry, 12 touchdowns, almost identical stats. But for the past 2 years, Jonathan Williams has played better against the better defenses. Talk Auburn, Alabama, LSU, Mississippi State, and then in the bowl game against Texas when he ripped up the Longhorns for 105 yards on 23 carries. Check out the game log. Compare Collins and Williams. Collins ripped up Texas Tech, a horrible defense, for over 200 yards. That got his season off to a great start. Collins wore down late. Williams wore down the defenses in the SEC. And again, it is Jonathan Williams going into a senior season with a slight edge, 9 versus 10, but it's a beast of a backfield there for Brett Bielema at Arkansas. Number 8, we go out to the Pac-12 and the rushing champion in the conference. Not considered necessarily the best back in the conference, but the rushing champion, 1,575 yards. He ran for 9 touchdowns and about 6 yards per carry. Paul Perkins out of UCLA. Brett Hundley went down in the Texas game. Who stepped up? Well, it was Jerry Neuheisel at quarterback, but it was mostly Paul Perkins who rushed the football. He's also a capable pass receiver. Caught a touchdown from 16 yards out and 49 yards out in a very, very close and unexpected close win over Cal, 36-34. He's got a tremendous offensive line coming back there at UCLA. Expect big things out of Paul Perkins, and he is looking to have a big senior season. All right, let's stay in the Pac-12. We said the backs are good out there. We go to Royce Freeman. This is amazing to think about. Byron Marshall was a 1,000-yard, 1,100, 1,200, 1,300-yard back at Oregon. He gets pushed to wide receiver because they can get him on the field because they've got Thomas Tyner. Well, Tyner gets hurt and also has to compromise his carries because of this guy, Royce Freeman. He was exceptional down the stretch for Oregon. Let's run down his statistics. Royce Freeman, 1,365 yards, 5.4 per carry, 18 touchdowns. Again, he moves Marshall to wide receiver. Tyner's going to have to split carries, and Royce Freeman is the guy that really toted it down the stretch for the Oregon Ducks. He's a dynamic back for the Oregon Ducks, the Pac-12 champions. All right, at number 6, the number's 427. That's what Samaje Perine ran up against the Kansas Jayhawks, the all-time rushing record. 1 week, of course, after Melvin Gordon hit up Nebraska for 408. 427 yards. I know it was against Kansas. The holes were huge, and even when he met resistance, it really wasn't resistance. But take away that game, he still has 1,300 yards. Perine was just a freshman doing that. 1,713 yards. Let me get my stats straight. 6.5 per carry, 21 touchdowns. I usually remember these stats, but they're a little bit tough running down all these big numbers for these running backs. Samaje Perine is built like a man. Check out the Oklahoma Sooners Twitter feed. There's a picture posted there. Samaje Perine showing off the biceps, showing off the guns. It is amazing. He is a man-child. He's got elite speed. Now, the Sooners do have Joe Mixon, a five-star recruit, coming into the fold this season, and also Alex Ross, who takes a few carries away because he's got tremendous, tremendous speed. So Perine's going to have plenty of backfield depth to back him up, and is going to have to play his best to maintain that number one starting position at Oklahoma because it's one of the best backfields in college football there in Norman. All right, at number 5, interesting pick here. Derrick Henry's stats not nearly as great as the other players we see on the top 10 list. Ran for 990, 5.8 per carry, and 11 touchdowns. But Derrick Henry, let's go back to the Oklahoma Sugar Bowl game when he was just a freshman. He had already had big games in relief of T.J. Yeldon at that point, but on a national stage, he showed up and could not be tackled. Oklahoma defeated Alabama that night, but Derrick Henry was the star of that game on the Crimson Tide side. And last season, again, 990, 11 touchdowns, and now he's got the stage all to himself. Yes, they've recruited five-star running backs, and he has competition there, namely Damian Harris, who was just recruited and signed by Alabama this spring. But T.J. Yeldon's gone, one of the greats at Alabama, and it's Henry's show. Now, a couple things to point out here is that he's added 20 pounds, added 20 good pounds of muscle. What's he doing in the offseason? This workout, they say, is ridiculous. He's tossing tires all over the place. He's pushing Ford F-150s miles. Derrick Henry's a monster. He's a beast. And if Alabama would have stuck with him on the ground against Ohio State, they may have, not saying this for sure, may have made it to the national championship game. Henry had 13 carries for 95 yards. When they were a touchdown behind, they went to him. He got some momentum. He started to wear down the Buckeyes' front seven. But again, 13 for 95 against that Ohio State front, but they got away from him, got a little fancy in the passing game, and knocked out by the Buckeyes. Derrick Henry at number 5. All right, we go to Pitt. We don't hear a whole lot of Pitt on the national scene. But this kid, James Conner, they call him the Hammer. That's for good reason. He explodes between the tackles, and he beats defenses down. Ran for 1765, 5.9 per carry, 26 touchdowns for Pitt. We're not talking about for Florida State or for prolific offense like that. For Pitt. Now, Chad Voitek, their quarterback, was handed the keys a little bit more frequently down the stretch. So he's going to be more of a playmaker downfield, and they're going to trust him a little bit more in the passing game. So this is a good thing for Pitt's offense. Maybe not for Connor's statistics, but it's going to save his legs for down the stretch. And as a dark horse in the ACC, also going to save his legs for the pros. James Conner is one of the great backs in college football. He broke Tony Dorsett's 3-game yardage record at Pitt to open the season. And of course, Tony Dorsett, one of the greats of all time, won the Heisman Trophy in 1976. All right, we go to number 3 and Leonard Fournette. So much expected out of this kid as the number 1 running back recruit coming out of high school in 2014. He started off slow. Of course, LSU had other backs to go to with more experience and who knew the offense. Fournette gained much criticism from the media, the fans, Twitter people, even the coaching staff at times kind of questioned him early, and he wasn't given the football too much early on. And then he caught his stride. Really in the Florida game was the first time he put his foot down and took over the offense running the football. And of course, there was little of a passing game to take the pressure off Leonard Fournette. He ran for 1,034 yards, 5.5 per carry, 10 touchdowns. If you need to see some Leonard Fournette to catch up with what he did last year, LSU losing 5 games, maybe you didn't see a lot of the Tigers last year, look at the Texas A&M game. They couldn't handle him. The one classic Herschel Walker, Billy Bates type play when he just ran over the Texas A&M Aggies safety. Leonard Fournette, as a freshman, was already a man, and he's getting better. Thinner and faster, we understand, without losing any power this year. And then against Notre Dame in the bowl game, 11 carries for 143, kickoff return, 99 yards for a touchdown. Leonard Fournette. He didn't have the stats to say it and back it up last year. But again, this is not a rating of 2014. This is projecting to this fall, 2015, Leonard Fournette at number 3. All right, Todd Gurley was the best back in college football. Todd Gurley's gone, and Nick Chubb stepped in against Missouri and ran it 38 times, so they didn't back away from giving the freshman the football. Nick Chubb, as a freshman, in what should have been the most important game for Georgia last season, ran it 38 times against Missouri and just tore up the Tigers. And the Dogs won it 34-0. Well, of course, they slipped up elsewhere and should have went to the SEC championship game. But Nick Chubb finished off a great freshman campaign with a 266-yard, 2-touchdown performance against Louisville. Got to get Chubb's stats here. They were amazing. He was around 1,800 yards, 18 touchdowns for the Georgia Bulldogs last season. Nick Chubb is just amazing power-speed combination for an offense that is suited for him, always suited for the tailback. And with a new quarterback in play for Georgia, Nick Chubb's going to be relied upon. And kind of like the Oklahoma situation, if he gets hurt or needs a breather, they got plenty of talent there at Georgia with Sony Michel and company. All right, at number 1. Think about this time last year, this guy would have been rated at best like the 6th or 7th best running back in the Big Ten. And then even after 5 or 6 really good games out of him, he still would have only been rated the 5th or 6th best running back in the Big Ten, because you had Melvin Gordon, David Cobb, Amir Abdullah, Jeremy Langford, Tevin Coleman, all guys that have moved on to the NFL. And even if those guys would have stayed, he might be number 1 on the list. He was that good down the stretch. Ezekiel Elliott, I know you've seen these numbers. Let them sink in. 220 against Wisconsin, 236 against Alabama's front 7. 256 against Oregon in the national championship game. Those are crazy numbers against 3 excellent but very different defenses. Wisconsin, you say, well, they don't have the NFL-type speed. Yes, Wisconsin's front 7 is serious. They defended the run better than anybody in the country most of last season until they saw this guy. Alabama, probably the most talented front 7 in college football these last few seasons. And then Oregon, say what you will about them being possibly a little bit soft. They don't give up rushing yardage. 256 against Ezekiel Elliott. Now, we're not going to see I'm not going to do it. You're not going to see the abs this year. The NCAA is violated, or they are going to enforce a new rule that they don't want to see the abs this season. So actually, Ezekiel Elliott's father has said, I will be my boy's ambassador this season. So you're going to see the old man's abs on the sideline or in the stands. But Ezekiel Elliott says, I'll do what I'm told to do. No big deal. But this guy used to show off the abs. No longer, but we expect him to show off more for Ohio State, starting with that first game against Virginia Tech. That's the top 10. Would love to hear who else you have. We considered about 25 running backs before we got it down to this 10. Alex Collins, Jonathan Williams from Arkansas. Then we've got at number 8, Paul Perkins, the Pac-12 rushing champion. Also out of the Pac-12, Royce Freeman. Even with Thomas Tyner and Byron Marshall in the backfield, there at Oregon, number 7. Samaje Perine in a loaded OU backfield at number 6. Derrick Henry at number 5 out of Bama. Number 4, James Conner out of Pitt. Leonard Fournette, our number 3 running back in college football for the LSU Tigers. Nick Chubb at number 2 out of Georgia. And the number 1 back in college football, Ezekiel Elliott, for the defending national champion Ohio State Buckeyes. Would love to hear from you and your take on our top 10 running backs in college football right here on Mark Rogers TV.